Good morning.
Good morning. I know I'm a black square right now.
Yeah, so I'm going to make myself into a black square. How will that feel? We'll just be black squares talking to black squares.
No, you're right. Give me a minute.
Okay, take your time. No, if you're not comfortable, you don't have to. I don't mean to put pressure on you. Good morning, Esty. And good morning, Natalie.
Good morning.
And good morning, Machon LiYahadus. Oh, a person. Hi. Okay.
Nice to see you.
Yes. Human interaction. But they're saying that it's over in Crown Heights. They're just not letting us out because the whole world is not Crown Heights, apparently. But here in this neighborhood, just because.
It's over? What do you mean?
Well, in Crown Heights, such a high percentage of the people have already had it. It's like 70 or 80%.
Yeah.
That there's a presumption that unless you're like very, very old, like my parents, for example, you don't have to worry. Just go out. You either got it or you're not getting it, is what they're saying. So now it's just a matter of time before the government wants another month of this here quarantine. You know what the tragedy is? That I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying enjoying my kids are here. I have 6 of my children home, and I'm loving being with them. And we got 6 schools going on. And it's pretty peaceful in this house, but I have a suspicion that it's not that way in many other places. We have people who are very close to each other, they end up hating each other. So it's not been my experience, but I understand why people are itching to get out. I wouldn't mind the rest of my life being like this. Cut up on the computer, give my classes, stay in my house. Nobody bothers me, I don't bother nobody. But I'm strange, and I know it. I don't know why that's funny, but it's funny. Good morning. Okay, now I'd like to talk about anything but what I'm supposed to teach, because I have no clue what I'm supposed to teach. I mean, I know what I'm supposed to teach, but I don't know what to say. You know, a lot of people ask me, why are you wasting 2 hours on 4 psukim of Siddur? And the answer is because I'm OCD. I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I love to get into something to its core. And apparently a couple of you don't mind that trip. Problem is, I like it not just to be thorough, but also to be accurate. I don't like to talk. I like to talk a lot, but I like to talk a lot about things that I believe are actually true. Problem is, I sat down. I got up early today. Okay, a little bit after 6, and the only thing on my mind was to prepare this class. I can't say it's the only thing I did. I did a lot of pacing. I did a lot of wasting time because I don't have a clue what I'm gonna do. I don't have a clue. I have 4 pages of notes. Here are my notes. And I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't have any help from the Mefarshim. The commentaries on the Siddur decided to say, okay, Paltiel, fly solo. They're not helpful. They're really not helpful. Okay? I'll explain to you what I mean. Okay? I'll explain to you what I mean. First of all, does everybody have one of these? Recognize this page, right? Some of you have the actual Siddur. It's page 27. It's the very last line of the page. If you'll go to the chat here, I put it up 2 weeks ago. I can put it up again if you so desire. Should I put it up again? I'll put it up again. What do we got to lose? If I can find it. Here. Okay, I'm just putting up that page again, and basically it's up there now. Okay, it's a page of Hodu that I put numbers. There's 46 lines, and this is line we're doing today: line 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. Wow, a lot of lines: 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. That's about 5.5 lines. For us, that's like it's too much material. By the way, good morning to Natalie D, and good morning Talia Shoshana Picture. So I've been teaching you Hodu all year, right? I've been teaching you Hodu all year. That's a special genius. 2 pages of Siddur in a year. We've learned some sichas, and by the way, I don't know how many Wednesdays we have after today, but starting next week till the end of the school year, we're just going to do sichas. You know how that all worked out, right? Officially, it's half Siddur, half sicha. Then it became 1 week Siddur, 1 week sicha, and then it became 1 month Siddur and 1 month sicha. So, Amith Hashem, I don't know how many more Wednesdays there are, but beginning next Wednesday, we'll have a class, right? Shavuos is Friday. Beginning next Wednesday, I'm going to be doing the sichas. You know, remember how we did the sichas on the story of the Chumash, etc.? We're going back to that. That's what we're going to do till the end of the school year. Next year, I'll decide what I'm going to do. I'll either finish Hodu or not finish Hodu.
We have about 4 Wednesdays.
Cool. So we'll use them in Mitzvah Hashem for learning sichas, okay? Which will be different. And I know distinctly that some of the girls prefer it, so I'm just giving you a heads up.
Rabbi Paltiel,
Yes, ma'am.
is it okay if I record this?
It's okay if you record it. I so far have said a lot of nothing. I've spoken for 4 minutes and 55 seconds, and I've said absolutely nothing of substance. Okay, so now, girls, let me tell you what's been going on, and I'll tell you what my problem is, okay? What's been going on is that we've defined Hodu. We've boxed Hodu in. Hodu is a huge chunk of davening right in the beginning of our Siddur. It's technically 3 pages. It's a little bit less than 3 pages, depending on the type, right? In this page, they made them small, so it's 2 pages. But it's a big prayer. And Hodu basically has 3 pieces. That's how we're learning it. Just 3 pieces, okay? The first piece was said in the Beis HaMikdash in the morning. The second piece was said in the Beis HaMikdash in the evening. And the third piece was not said in the Beis HaMikdash at all. So to make a long story short, we analyzed Hodu, of course based on the Mefarshim. We're not so smart. We used what the commentaries had to say about Hodu. And we made certain conclusions about Hodu. And the conclusions were as follows. The first part of Hodu talks about the history of the Jewish people, the good and the bad, the survival. In other words, in the morning, we talk about so-called light, we talk about the Jewish people and their struggles and their survival. The second part of Hodu, we're talking about the whole world, which doesn't mean Yidden only, it means Goyim as well, the whole world, and it's connected to the evening or to the night. And we spun it that it's talking about when Mashiach comes. Now, what does the night have to do when Mashiach comes? The answer to that question is simple. The idea of Mashiach is that darkness is made into light, that concealment is made into revelation. Or as it relates to our conversation, that the world that we look at, that we argue, we don't see Hashem in, exactly in that world, we see Him. Right? And since Pesach, that's what we have done. After Pesach, we started, it's pretty amazing, we did pretty good. After Pesach, we started line 12. It's amazing. We started line 12. Shidul Hashem kol ha'aretz basru mayem Yeshua say. That's what we started, right? We started line 12. And what we did was we explained how the night becomes day, right? How the darkness becomes light. It doesn't become light because you shine a light into the darkness. It doesn't become light because you perform. You look at Hashem's world as it is. If you see God in nature, that's Mashiach. And it's not limited to the Jewish people. Shirul Hashem kol ha'aretz, the whole world sings. And we had so far 3 discussions, 3 classes. In the first, we described how the world declares, how all of us, the world declares that this is God's world and there's only one God. The second was this business called Havu. Havu, once you discover that the world is Hashem's, you have to give. You have to give something to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That was 2 weeks ago. And then after Havu, we had what's called Yismechu Hashem. The world rejoices. Now that the world, that we have discovered that there's only one God who's imminently involved, and we've learned that in our relationship with God, we can't just take, we also have to give, there's Yismechu, there's rejoicing. Now we have the last 4 psukim. There's a few problems with the last 4 psukim. And the first is that they're not all from the same source. The first 2 of the last 2 psukim, which is line 23, the last line on page 27, ואימר הוישנו אלוקיישנו וקבצנו והצילנו מן הגויים להידוס לשם קדשך ולשבח בצילסך ברוך עד השם אלוקי ישראל מן העולם ועד העולם ויאמר כל העם אמן והלל עד השם. These 4 lines are part of Hodu. They're part of the Divrei Hayamim. The 2 lines after that, the Roimamu, is from Psalm 90 something. It's from Psalm 99, okay, which is a completely different place. Which means we're now dealing with the cut and the paste part of Hodu. The entire paragraph that we've been reading now all year long is from one source in Divrei Hayomim. We divided it into 2 with a pretty good excuse, but it's all from one place in Chronicles, okay? The first 2 psukim of today's class are the last 2 psukim of that section in Chronicles. It's Chronicles 1, chapter 16, okay? Okay. The last 2 psukim of today's class are from a different source. So that immediately gives us trouble. But the most important problem with today's class, and again, I'm telling you this as a teacher, is if I created a trajectory, right? I decided what the Batilla means. Now, I didn't make it up by myself because I'm just not smart enough. I made it up based on what the commentaries say on the Tillim. And the commentators in the Tillim told me that this section of davening is about darkness showing that it's God, right? In the darkness finding Hashem, which we're calling Mashiach. That's what I decided. Before Pesach, I told you one thing, and after Pesach, I changed my mind. That the world, nature of the world, says it's God. Okay? So once we have 3 weeks of this pattern, the next 4 psukim have to cooperate, and they're not. Today's psukim seem to be completely not consistent with the way we explained it in the last 3 weeks, which is a problem, right? It's not a problem with the Tillim, it's a problem with yours truly. In other words, I made up a pshat, and I didn't make it up completely because like I said, I'm not smart enough. I took it from the Mepharshim. These psukim are just not cooperating. Sorry, we don't work. You started a trip, and then all of a sudden there's a new road, and there's no link between the old road and the new road, and it's driving me mad. So I'm sitting here hours this morning, literally, on and off. When you don't know what to do, if you're a teacher and you're trying to be creative, and you know what to do, you take a walk around the block, you come back and try again. How are these 4 psukim going to fit with what we learned until this point? That's the question, okay? What did we learn until this point? And I'm repeating myself again, okay? When you don't know what to say the same thing over again. It's one of the many tricks, okay? We learned 12 lines, 12 psukim. It's a lot. We learned, in the last 3 classes, we learned 12 lines, 12 psukim. What did these 12 psukim say? These 12 psukim said that Mashiach means that you see Hashem in nature. That Mashiach means, in as much as you see Hashem in nature, you don't just take from God, you give to God. Mashiach means that when you see Hashem in nature, and you don't just take to God, you also give to God, you rejoice. What comes next? What's missing in that scheme? Okay? Now, forgive me, I'm going to repeat again what I just said. I'm going to say again. Okay, most of you or all of you have been here every week, so this is familiar, right? Once a week is not often enough because you know it's not, you can forget, but once a week is often enough. Our classes are close enough enough that you can remember what it's talking about. We are explaining the second part of Hodu as describing the world showing that it's God, not with a miracle, no, just the nature of the world. If you look at the nature of the world and you see God, that's Mashiach. You look at the nature of the world, you see God, and you give, you don't just take. You look at the nature of the world, you see God, you give, and you don't just take, and you celebrate. That's what we did, right? What comes next? What's missing? So I don't know. And I have a whole bunch of commentaries, which I researched. I have some Hasidus, which I read this morning. I did a lot of reading. And they're making it very difficult for me to find a continuity, to see how this flows. So here's what I came up with. And again, understand, I came up with this because I have no choice. I came up with this because it's the best that I can do. I came up with this because this were the only clues that I got from the Mepharshim. But I'll put it to you this way. If every week I come to class thinking to myself, what if I'm misleading a bunch of people? Today I'm coming to class saying, I know I'm misleading people. How badly am I misleading them? I'm making up a pshat. I'm inventing a pshat on the next 5 lines, line 23 through line 28, which really I have so little source. If I could show you my notes, I don't mind sending you my pages and pages of notes that I wrote on Hodu. And you can see the Sforim that I resourced, that I looked up. I write down every sefer and what he says in summary. and so on. And you'll see that I usually have a pretty good base for what I teach. In other words, I usually say stuff based on what I read. Today, I'm on my own. Okay, I'm really. Oh, there's a few little details of what I'm going to teach today that some of the Mefarshim, some of the Rishonim, and the Hasidus was kind enough to provide. Otherwise, I'm mamish flying solo, which I don't like to do. I would much rather be able to tell you the Mefarshim say this is how we're interpreting it, than saying, let's be creative. This is an unusually difficult week for me because I have so little source material. I have so little to go on. So I'm on my own. Okay? What's the gist of today's class? What's the nekuda? What am I going to be telling you? So I'm going to say the same thing over again, okay? In class 1, we read how the world recognizes God within nature. In class 2, we read, after the world recognizes God within nature, the world gives to God. In class 3, we read, after the world recognizes God in nature and gives to God, it celebrates. What's 4? 4 is God shows himself. God reveals himself. Now, we already see him, right? But what we're seeing is God within nature. Beyond seeing Hashem within nature is seeing Hashem which is higher than nature. Or technically speaking, there is looking at Hashem's world and seeing that it's God's, and then Hashem tapping you on the shoulder and saying, you see? In other words, let's put it this way. It's one level to look at nature and see Hashem. It's an amazing thing. It's another to see a miracle. It's another to see Hashem wow you. It's another for Hashem to come and show himself to you in a way that's beyond nature. A divine revelation. And I think, and again, this is a big I think, I should get all my apologies out of the way now so I don't apologize every 5 minutes for the next 2 hours because it's going to get boring and chronic and nudgy. But I'm really apologizing because I'm making this up. But that's what we're going to be learning. Today's class is about Hashem revealing himself. Even though Mashiach means we see him, but it's one thing to see Hashem in nature, it's quite another for things to happen that are beyond nature or higher than nature, and we see him entirely differently. That's what's going to happen today. That's what I'm going to do. Am I right or wrong? Is it true or false? I really, really don't know. I always don't know. Today I really don't know. Okay? So let's just set it up. Let's imagine it, okay? 2 people walk out on the street today. I live on Sterling Street, yeah? One looks at the world and he sees concrete and steel and scary-looking strangers and dirt on the sidewalk. And he sees an arbitrary world, yeah? This world is a place where, the magic word, everybody who lives here is trying to survive. Another person walks out onto Sterling Street and sees order, amazing order. The homes are set up in rows, the cars are parked neatly, the garbage cans are placed neatly on the sides of the homes. Even the little bit of garbage on the side that doesn't bother him so much. He looks at people and he sees beauty. Looks at the trees, the few trees still left in Brooklyn, he sees beauty. Wherever he looks, he sees order, he sees beauty. And he realizes that there's a reason why it's so orderly and beautiful. Because there's a creator. Or to say it in plain words, somebody's watching, somebody's overseeing, somebody is protecting, somebody is sheltering. So he walks out, or she walks out in the very, very same world as the guy next to him or the girl next to her and sees God everywhere. They're looking at exactly the same thing. They're wearing different sets of glasses, that's all. Now, where do these spectacles come from? Why do these glasses exist? Complicated question. I'm sure there's more than one answer. But one of them is, let's say this, Hashem lets us see. Hashem lets us see. If Hashem lets us see, then we see. If Hashem doesn't let us see, then we don't see. Another answer, a very important answer is, the more healed, the more fixed, the more corrected the world becomes, the easier it is to look at the world and see Hashem in order rather than chaos and disorder. The more the world heals and fixes itself, the more we could see ourselves as livers rather than survivors, right? We call that Mashiach. That's what Mashiach means. Mashiach means the world is healed. That means people are healed. Society is healed. Civilization is healed. The healing of the world doesn't change the world. It changes the world, but it doesn't change it that much. But it certainly changes how we see it. Right? That's Mashiach. The world that you and I live in right now, right here, if we look around at other people and see goodness, and they look around at us and see goodness, nothing has to happen. And so much has changed. It's a completely different world without being a different world at all. That's the spirit that we established in our first class after Pesach. That's the trajectory. That's the mindset. And I believe that what I just told you is a far more accurate depiction of Mashiach than all the stuff you read about in the fairy tales. I believe that that's what Mashiach means. Mashiach's about people being good. To be good, you have to follow the Torah. Not just Jews, but all humankind. When people are good and they follow the Torah, you look around the world and you see God. The more people see good and see God in the world, the more good in God the world is. That's Mashiach. And then there's something transcendent. A revelation which is beyond nature. You don't just look at the world. And wherever you look at the world, you see someone's holding me, someone's supporting me, someone is sheltering me, someone is shadowing me. But you experience, let's use this word loosely, Ein Sof. You're experiencing beyond the good that the world is, you're experiencing the good of God, which is beyond the world. This is how this is what today's class is. To say it in different words, it is almost if you were to say, and I don't want to say it, but let's say it anyway, that there's two ideas in Mashiach. The first idea of Mashiach is how the world heals itself. And the second idea of Mashiach is that in as much as the world heals itself, Hashem shows himself to the world. What Hashem shows of himself to the world after the world heals itself is more than the world. So the last 3 weeks, we were describing how the world experiences its own redemption, Mashiach. Today, we're going to be discussing what happens when Hashem shows himself to the world. Okay? I think that was it took me forever to get to my point, right? Because I made about 74 apologies. Hopefully, I won't make any more. But when I finally got to my point, I think I made myself quite clear. Does anybody want to ask me any questions or make any comments?
Do you think because of the virus, the world is healed now? Or in the process of healing?
You really want to ask me that question? I've been so careful not to say anything stupid. You know, people like me that are called rabbis, and by the way, when people ask me, are you a rabbi? I say I either don't deserve the title or I don't want the title. In other words, either rabbi is junk or supreme, and I'm neither. I'd like to be neither. I've kept my mouth shut. I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to try to be a prophet and hope I guess right. You know, people say what's going to happen, and then if they work out wrong, it's terrible. Work out, you see, look, I was so smart. I've kept my mouth shut. I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know. I believe Hashem runs the world. I believe that everything that we do brings us from point A to point B, and the end game is Mashiach. I'll tell you one thing. I think this quarantine has made people look inward. In other words, every human being in this world has thought about, in quotes, the most important things in life, which we usually don't think about in America. In America, we think about vacation and weekends and partying and food and clothes and pleasure. Whenever people are challenged, they go into themselves and they get closer to their true self. Now, it's going to end. What happens? We go back to being superficial selves, or we try to be a little bit closer to our core. If people come out of this quarantine and say, you know, I just spent 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks with my family. That means my father, my mother, brother, sister, and I can't stand them. I was stuck in a house. I prefer my friends in college dorm. But you know what? They're for keeps. You know, my friends in school are for today, not for tomorrow. These are for keeps. And say, you know, I got to figure out how to love them. That'll be a healing. If we come out of this event and just make believe it never happened and go back to being our superficial selves, it won't be a healing. So I'm not answering you because I don't know. I'm not a prophet and I don't want to try to be. I don't want to guess and maybe be wrong. I don't want to guess and be right. I don't want to guess. But it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, you know? It's an opportunity. It's Hashem giving the Western materialistic, what do they call it in history classes? Consumer-based civilization a chance to actually do something mature and grown up. Will we? It remains to be seen. And I do believe that there's a bad word that Americans hate, but it's also true, called leadership. If the leaders speak to this, people will respond to it. If the leaders don't speak to it, I mean, individuals, I'm sure there's many people in America today who are much more mature than they were 3 months ago in terms of what's important in life. But if our leaders, if people who are in positions of prominence, the people who speak that people listen to will come forward and say, listen, people, we all looked inward, we thought about more important stuff, let's stay in that space, then it'll be a really important chinuch event. So I'm answering, you understand what I'm saying? I'm answering you to the best. I'm not prophesizing. I'm simply telling you what I understand events like these do to people and the opportunity that it presents. Now it's a question of not wasting it, not squandering it. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. Does anybody else want to make any comments, ask any questions? So let's read the text. It's the last line on page 27. Ve'imru. How do you translate ve'imru? Huh? Ve'imru is translated here, and say. And say, ve'imru. Now, ve'imru could mean you should say. Ve'imru could mean we should say. And ve'imru could mean they should say. And I'm not sure. Ve'imru, I would like ve'imru to mean we will all say. The collective will say. Ve'imru, we will all say, or they will all say. Hoshienu. Hoshienu means save us. Elikei Yishenu, the God of our salvation. Whatever salvation means. Salvation is like essence. No one knows what the word means. Everybody's happy with the word. Okay, Api Kabbalah, the word Hoshienu, the word Yishenu, have the same root. It's 3 letters, Shin, Ayin, Hey, and it's mystically a very, very high level. Okay, V'kabetenu, collect us. V'hatzilenu, and save us. Or V'hatzilenu means shadow us. The Hebrew word for shadow is tzeil. So V'hatzilenu means save us, and V'hatzilenu means shadow us. Min hagoyim. Now the literal translation of min hagoyim means from the nations. Okay. Now the problem with min hagoyim meaning from the nations, because it's the nations who are doing the talking, right? If our interpretation of these 16 psukim is accurate, this is not being said by the Jewish people. This is being said by the whole world. So why would the world say, save me from myself? You understand? I'll get back to this. LiYahadus, to submit, to thank. L'shem kachecha, to your holy name. L'hishtabeach b'thilasecha. L'shtabeach means that we should boast, we should be praised with the praise of Hashem. That Hashem is going to be in a state of higher praiseworthiness. And as a consequence of the fact that Hashem is going to be in a higher state of praiseworthiness, we will also be praised in a higher way. And I'm reading. Baruch Hashem. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Blessed God. Elikei Yisrael, the God of Israel. And again, understand, if this section is a prayer being said by the whole world, the Min HaGoyim is a problem, and the Elikei Yisrael is a problem. You see? In other words, the psukim are not cooperating with my fantasy. Elikei Yisrael, the God of Israel, Min HaOlam, V'Ha'olam, from one world to the next. V'Yayimru Kol Ha'am, and again it says V'Yayimru. They will say, we will say, it will say, all of the all of the nations, all the people, Amen. Amen means affirmation, we agree. V'Halal Hashem, and let us praise HaKadosh Baruch. Roimemu, now in English the translation of the word Roimemu is exalt. What does exalt mean? Don't worry, nobody knows. And as long as nobody knows, everybody's smart. One guy knows what the word means, he ruins it for the rest of us. Roimemu, let us uplift, that's what the other means. Uplift, that's exalt. Adeshem Elokeinu, God who is our God. V'hishtachavu, and we will bow down, lahadoim raglav, to his footstool. Kadeshu, he's holy. And then we say a second time, Roimemu, let us exalt, let us lift up. Adeshem Elokeinu, God who is our God. V'hishtachavu, and we'll bow down, lahar kodesh, to his holy mountain. Ki kadesh Hashem Elokeinu, because Hashem is holy. Now, if you followed my introduction, and you just listen to my translation of these 5 psukim, you understand my problem. The psukim are not conforming to what I want them to say, which is so silly. You know, I have to tell the Torah what the Torah means, but we took a position a long time ago, before Pesach, after Pesach, that we're reading this section of Tehillim in a certain light, and that we didn't make up. That does say in the Mefarsh. So here's the question: how do these 4 psukim follow in line of the last 12 psukim that we read? If we're describing Mashiach and a good world, and a world that doesn't just take but give, and a world that doesn't take and give but also celebrates, with the reference of separating himself from the Goyim and the God of Israel, Elokei Yisrael. And here's the answer. Here's the answer. And again, I'm telling you all this as an introduction, and then we're going to be learning this inside, okay? One of the most important Rambams. Every Rambam is important, yeah? But for today, this is one of the most important Rambams. Tomorrow there'll be another important Rambam, but for today, this is one of the most important Rambams. It's very interesting, but it also is very revealing. It says something which presents you with a mindset. The Rambam is talking about Mashiach. The very last paragraph of the entire book of Rambam, okay, says, "U'ba'oisei hazman," at that time, that means when Mashiach comes, "Lo yeh sham," there will not be le'rav, le'milchama, le'kinev, le'tachas, neither hunger nor war, nor jealousy nor competitiveness. Shekol hamadani mitzuyim ka'afar, because all things that give people pleasure will be available like dust. There will be nothing in the entire world that you could call asek. Asek doesn't mean things that people do. Asek means obsession. Things that people do obsessively. Things that people do like a businessman. There'll be nothing in the world on a level of asek, only to know God. As a consequence of that the world is going to change. How is it going to change? People are not going to be jealous. People are not going to be hungry. People are not going to be competing and fighting wars, because there's going to be enough for everybody. People's business is going to be the knowledge of God. Lefichach, therefore, Yiyu Yisrael Chachamim Gedolim, the Jewish people are going to be very wise. They're going to know things that are mysterious and secret. They're going to reach an understanding of their Creator. To the maximum capacity of man. To the maximum capacity of man. And then, of course, the last words in the Ramamarsha. Nema, as the Pasuk says, the world is going to be filled with the knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kamaim Liyam Mechasm, as water covers the sea. So the Rambam in this halacha describes the Messianic world. And again, in my mindset, he's not talking about miracles. He's just talking about, again, the magic word for me is order. Goodness. Order. The goodness, when people look at the goodness and order in the world, and instead of being jealous and afraid, they see goodness. And they can live in harmony with one another. That's Mashiach. The consequence of that goodness is that people can think about more important things. If people are competing over food or clothing or power or notoriety or other superficial things, that competitiveness makes us small. If those things stop being important, there's simply a possibility, there's simply an environment, there's a framework where people can be involved in higher things because the opportunity has presented itself. This is what you asked me before, Shira, right? Are we going to be better because of quarantine? Now, I can tell you this, we're going to be better because of Mashiach. Because Mashiach is going to create an environment where we're able to see ourselves, not in a childish, selfish, frightened, and again, to me, the word that denotes it more than anything else, survivalist world, but in a good and safe and kind and living world. You don't live, what Judaism teaches? The difference between believing in God and not believing in God. If you don't believe in God, you're trying to survive. If you do believe in God, you're trying to live. Mashiach is the maximum environment people are able to live. So when people are able to live, they think of most important things. What's the more important things? Not what we are, but why we are. God. So this is what the Rambam describes, right? The Rambam says the world is going to be a better place. Because it's a better place, people are going to be involved in higher things. And then Rambam concludes, and Jews are going to be involved in even higher things. Right? The whole world is going to be involved in knowledge of God, and Yisrael, you, Chachamim, Gedalim, Yeit, on an even higher level. What's the Rambam presenting us with? What is the Rambam teaching us? What the Rambam is teaching us fundamentally is the following, and fundamentally on a basic level. And this is a familiar idea. I mean, I've said this to you more than once, I would imagine, okay? The Rambam makes a statement, okay? Let me start from the other angle, okay? Are there good people in the world? Sure, there always have been. There always have been. Why isn't everybody good? Because it's hard to be good. To be good, to be righteous, you have to have a lot of inner strength to not fall to what's called the lowest common denominator. That's human nature. You live amongst people. If you're living in an environment of people, and these people live defensive lives, they live the survivalist life, their whole attitude towards life is, I got to take for myself what I can because no one else is going to give me, and people are going to take from me unless I don't let them, etc., etc. If you live in that kind of world, you're going to be that kind of person. Are there people who step above that? There always are. There always are good people. There are always people who say, everyone's busy with nonsense. I'm busy with kindness. I'm busy with God. I'm busy with righteousness, with principle, yeah? But every one of those people, at any one of those moments in history, is very special. They're almost like a miracle. Why? Because they're fighting the trend. The environment that they're living in, the world they're living in, is not supporting their way of life. Right? They're surviving it. You know what we call that? We call that Golus. It's called Golus. Golus means you're serving Hashem in a world that's not supporting service of God. That's what it means. And the proof is that people fail all the time. Imagine you lived in a world that supported it. Imagine you lived in a world that means the people supported the idea of higher values. Beginning with the whole concept of kindness. Beginning with the whole concept of, I'm not afraid someone is going to steal my shirt. I can afford to give my extra shirt to somebody else. Simple things like that. And again, I want to use my code words. Beginning with a world where people stop seeing themselves as survivors and start seeing themselves as livers. To me, that's Mashiach. It's not more complicated than that. When you live in that kind of an environment, it's so much easier to be righteous, isn't it? It's so much easier to be good because the environment supports it. And that's what the Rambam describes. Step 1, the world is good. Step 2, people are busy with higher things. People are busy with higher things because the environment is supporting. It's permitting them. It's encouraging them. It's making it easy for people to be involved in higher things. So the Jewish people, who are the nation that Hashem chose to, so to speak, represent Him on earth, whatever the philosophy is, are going to be still higher because we're connected. There always are special people. But special people are fighting with the whole world, or most of the world. Or they're fighting with the world in some aspects. Mashiach means special is ordinary. Why is special ordinary? Because the word is supporting it. That's what the Rambam describes. But it's 3 steps. Step A, the world is a good place. Step B, humanity is busy with good things. And step C, the chosen nation of Hashem is supported by the environment, and therefore they're busy with the deepest things. That's why I read these lines. Mashiach comes, there's a divine revelation. Why is there a reference to Yisrael? Because the way I'm understanding these psukim is when you're living in a world that supports goodness, and therefore ultimately it supports godness. The idea is you want to bring more of God into the world, a higher level of God into the world. And Yidden are on a higher level. And this is why it says, Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael. Now, don't guess for me, okay? I already did my guessing. I wrote a whole 3 pages of guessing. I have it right here. Okay? You'll see how it's going to play out. In other words, I'm going to read the psukim, I'm going to translate them, and you'll see in the words, and you have no idea how much license I've given myself to interpret, because the information that's available in the commentaries on these psukim is so limited, you have no idea. But that's how we're learning it, okay? But there's one thing that is discussed at great length in Hasidus in these 4 psukim. In other words, my big clue, the only thing I can say with almost certainty that I have support for what I'm teaching in these 4 lines is on line 25. Yeah, page 28, second line of that. Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael min ha'olam v'yad ha'olam, from world to world. You see those words? Blessed is God, the God of Israel, from one world to another. V'yomim kol am v'halal Hashem. These words, min ha'olam v'yad ha'olam, which appear in Siddur more than once. They appear in Siddur more than once or twice. Min ha'olam v'yad ha'olam is translated in Chassidus based on Kabbalah from the hidden world to the revealed world. Min ha'olam, you're bringing Hashem from the hidden world to the revealed world. In other words, the God that was yesterday concealed is now shown. And of course, this means the God that's above nature, that's even above the nature of the goodness of the messianic world, from a hidden world to a revealed world. That's my clue. That's the best clue I have for how I'm reading these 4 lines, these 4 psukim, these 5 lines. That Mashiach comes, and then into Mashiach has to come light. Something even higher than seeing the good of God in the nature of the world. Okay? And like I said, that's my best clue. Okay, now, was I helpful? Was I helpful? I'm still talking like this. In other words, I haven't read a single word, but I'm presenting you with ideas, which I hope are going to bring us closer and closer to an actual reading. If anybody wants to say anything, speak. Otherwise, I'll keep talking. Chaim. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. Okay, I'm warning you, I'm going to keep talking. So I want to say one more introduction. Okay, one more piece of introduction. You know, you've been learning in school for a few years, and you hear a lot of ideas. And you don't always see how the ideas come together, how they interlock, how they all come together, yeah? I'm going to give you an idea, yeah? I'm sure you've learned about the idea of sparks. Hashem has planted sparks all over the world, and the sparks need to be elevated, right? You learned that idea, right? Yeah, okay. You also learned the idea that when Mashiach comes, shuls from all over the world are picked up and they're brought to Eretz Yisrael and they're put next to the Beis HaMikdash, right? You learned that idea too, right? You also learned the idea that the Beis HaMikdash could be expanded, made bigger. Yerushalayim could be expanded, it can be made bigger, and Eretz Yisrael could be expanded and made bigger, right? You've learned all of these ideas. What you don't know is that all of these ideas come together. They come together, and they add up to an order. That's what they add up to an order. The Hebrew word for order, girls, is tikkun, right? Remember, tikkun and toihu. Tikkun means order. Tikkun means order. How do you explain order, right? Order is the opposite of disorder. When things are in the wrong place, when things are scattered, when things are disparate, that's disorder. If you can take a disorderly mess and slowly organize it and put everything where it needs to be, everything fits. I mean, everything is exactly where it's supposed to be, and it's a perfect order, there's a harmony, then there's an incredible oneness, an incredible beauty. In other words, if you have a toe where your head is supposed to be, the head is higher than the toe, but it's not good for the toe and it's not good for the head because it's in the wrong place. Everything needs to have its place. Everything needs to be where it's supposed to be. When everything is placed where it's supposed to be, there is order in the world, and the order in the world makes the world a better place. That's called tikkun. It's a simple idea, okay? When the Eibishter created the world, there's a lot of disorder. There's a lot of aspects. A lot of things are in the wrong place. For example, there's pieces of Eretz Yisrael in Brooklyn. There's pieces of Eretz Yisrael in Australia. There are pieces of a holy land that are in an unholy place because there's a mix. There's a cholent. People go there, they put up a shul. Putting up a shul, they're sort of announcing this is a piece of Eretz Yisrael. When Mashiach comes, things go to where they belong. There's an ordering. There's an organizing of things. Everything goes to its correct place. Let me give you a different example. Okay, now, this is very controversial. Very, very controversial. I'm not a social scientist, and I have no power, so don't worry about me creating a new world order, okay? But according to Torah, there are 70 nations. right? Not 210 or 209 or 211. There's 70 nations. And as you know, those 70 nations are all mentioned by name in Genesis. After the Mabul, the Torah describes Noach's families. What you don't know is that the names of there's exactly 70 names. Count them, you'll see. Noach's children, Shem, Cham, and Yefes, each have a bunch of kids. Every one of those people's names is actually a country. Or to say it in different words, it's actually a race. R-A-C-E. Not running fast, but a subsect of humankind. After the Mabul, and after the story of the Haflaga, people were divided up into races. There are 70 nations according to Torah. There are 70 races. There are 70 languages according to Torah. Now, you can argue that there's so many more, but Torah says, no, there are 70. The sub ones, the lesser ones, are variations of the same theme, but there are 70 nations. Now, every one of these 70 nations has a piece of land on this earth. In other words, there's an association between a certain group of people, a certain place, and a certain language. It's not the way it is right now, right? People are all mixed up. People who belong to one nation find themselves someplace else. People who are supposed to speak this language speak a different language. And there's also competitiveness. Everybody's saying, excuse me, you have my piece of land and I want it back. When the Eibishter created the world, after the Mabul and after the Haflag, he created 70 nations. Every one of these 70 nations was given a piece of the world and given a language. Imagine every person goes to his piece of land and lives with his race, with his family, and speaks his language. Order. Now, there's a lot of people in this world who would get so nervous because of what I said. You have no idea. Because they have a very, very, very dirty word for what I just said. And that word is nationalism. And nationalism has caused us so much tzara, you have no idea. I get that. I understand. But nevertheless, if it's true that the Eibishter created the world, and if it's true that the Eibishter created different kinds of people, and if it's true that every kind of person has a different piece of land and a different language, order means everybody goes where they belong. Just like you can go to Israel, every person has his place on this earth. If everybody goes to where they belong, you have order. Just like every piece of Eretz Yisrael moves to Eretz Yisrael, every piece of China moves to China, and every Chinaman lives in China and speaks Chinese. You understand what I'm trying to describe, or am I being completely confusing? Does it make sense what I'm saying or not?
I mean, it sounds good, but I think that the beauty of this world is that all the nations are living together, really.
Oh, right. But what does living together mean? This is a very important idea. Does living together mean that we live on top of each other's heads? Let me give you an example, Esty, okay? Point well taken. Let me give you an example. Yeah, and I always use the same example. You hear me say this all the time. You just don't realize that all these ideas tie together. What makes a healthy living thing? What makes a healthy living thing is two things. Number one, we're made up of many little cells. Every cell has a wall around it, or two walls around it, or three walls around it. They call them an envelope. The wall around the living cell does two things. It protects the living cell from its environment, and it allows healthy exit and entry from the cell to the environment. In other words, every individual cell serves two purposes: to separate every living thing from every other living thing, and to join every living thing with every other living thing. You understand? If you have one without the other, if all living things break down their walls, like the hippies wanted to do, we can all become one. We don't have to be distinctive and separate. That cell is sick. If, on the other hand, every cell has a wall around itself and it doesn't want to cooperate, doesn't want to interface with other cells, that cell is also sick. So health is based on two principles. Principle A, we are healthy because we're distinctive. Principle B, we are healthy because we interact constructively. Now, the world, history, the mistakes that people have made and the suffering that people have had makes us afraid of one or the other of those ideas. Some people are afraid of the idea of having walls. Why? Racist. Some people are afraid of the idea of people interfacing. Why? you lose your identity. Now, what's the truth? The truth is balance. The truth is, if everybody has their own space and everybody interfaces in a constructive and healthy way, you have a living thing. In other words, it's good for there to be my house and your house. You live in one house, I live in... It doesn't make us selfish. It doesn't make us bad. Come on, if we're really such good friends, why can't we live in the same house? If we're really such good friends, because that's the way the Eibishter set it up. And you see it in nature. Nature consists of thousands and thousands of little pieces. Each little piece needs its own identity with its own walls. But if it's healthy, it has both criteria. A, it's distinct from its environment. B, it interfaces constructively with its environment. And this is true not just in individual people, it's true in communities. Right? A person gets married, they build a family. A family first has children, and then children get married, and then they have children. It becomes an extended family. It's a unit. There is nothing bad about a family having a sense of closeness. Yeah, but why don't you include people outside of your family? And just we do. But the way we do is first we have a wall around ourselves, and then the wall opens, the doors open, the interfacing. You understand? So it's true of the individual, it's true of the family, it's true of the extended family, it's true of the community, it's true of the neighborhood, it's true of the city, it's true of the state, it's true of the country, it's true of the continent, and it's true of the world. So what I'm saying to you is that right now, culturally, the politics and the social engineers, their tendencies, what they're leaning towards, when they use the expression New World Order, they want to take down borders. Because borders are bad. Isn't it better if we all live together? But it's false. It's unsustainable. It's like a leaking cell. It's going to die. Yeah, but the opposite of that is selfishness and racism. And again, I said the word before again, nationalism. The Nazis were a nationalist movement. I don't need to say more. The idea of me and not you is bad. If me and not you mean to have a wall around myself and I don't interface. But if there's a balance between the separation between people and the interface in people, that's health. So I'm telling you, I'm proposing that the idea of Mashiach is just like Yid Muvat Yisrael. Every human being has his place. Every human being on this earth belongs to a race, has a language, and a land. And if everybody can find their piece of this world and their family, the people who are like them, and live distinct lives, everybody's different, and yet we can interface, we can share, we can cross borders in a healthy and constructive way, that's healthy. You follow? The only thing wrong with what I'm describing is that it's very unrealistic. It's totally unrealistic. How could that possibly be? And there's an answer, one-word answer, 3 letters. God. The Eibishter. It's not going to happen by itself. Mashiach makes the world a good place because the Eibishter gives him a koyach to make the world a place. But that's the design. So when you talk about pieces of Eretz Yisrael moving from China to Israel, you're not just talking about pieces of Israel moving to China. Pieces of China moving to Israel. You're talking about pieces of Israel moving to China. Everything, Mashiach means order. Everything has a place. Lahavdil Yidden have place. Lahavdil Goyim have place. There are many different types of Goyim. Different types of Yid. There's Kohen Levi Yisrael. There's 12 Shvatim. When Mashiach comes, the 12 Shvatim live in 12 different places. It's not racist. It's not nationalist. Because there's a balance between the health of the individual or the health of the individual group and the other groups. Just like there is health in a living thing, in an organic system, in a living body. And this is true of the world as a whole. You follow? And believe it or not, that ties in directly to the concept of sparks. Sparks means pieces of God that are in the wrong place. That's what it means. Elevating sparks means putting them where they belong. When everything goes where it belongs, you have order in Hashem's world. I think what I'm describing to you, it's very theoretical. You can't imagine it happening, but it really makes sense. Chassidus, if you've studied Chassidus deeply enough, says that when things are orderly, when things are organized, everything has a place. On the one hand, it seems to be very limited. But on the other hand, when you have perfect order, you're a medium, you're a keli for Ein Sof itself. That's really It's the Kabbalistic side of how the Rambam describes Mashiach. Because the Rambam also talks about the same idea, but he speaks about it in a limited way, in a halachic way. Mashiach means everybody, everything has its place. Separate from everything else around itself, interfacing with everything around itself in smaller units and in larger units until the whole world is one big unit. Did you understand what I just said? I need a couple more people to do this. Yeah, yeah. The penguins. You ever go to the dolphin show? Thank you very much. Now I want you to read again what we just read. Look at the words. Ve'imru, we will say, Hoishienu, Elokeshenu, save us, the God of our Father. V'kabetzenu, and gather us. What does the word gather us mean? Gather us means collect us from all over the world. And do what with us? Put us in our respective places. V'hatzilenu, I'm going to translate v'hatzilenu means to create a shadow of us. Min hagoyim. Min hagoyim doesn't mean from amongst the nations. It means from the chaos of the nations. From the mix-up. When everybody's mixed together, yeah, when, like you said before, when people, all of our races and all of our cultures and all of our languages and all of our, I hate to say this word, religions become all mixed up, it's safer. People don't kill each other as much. People get along better. That's true in Golus. But in Geula, it's better when everybody is themselves. Because in a world of Geula, me being me and you being me is not going to be, you being you is not a reason for me to you to kill each other. It's each one of us contributes what we are to the greater whole. So now you understand what the word min hagoyim means. It's not separating, it is separating Yidden from Goyim, but it's separating Goyim from Goyim as well. It's the idea that disorder, chaos, becomes orderly. And when everything has its place, there's a whole new experience of LiYahadus L'Shem Kadeshecha, to submit to the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, L'shtabech B'sil Asach. You follow? So you see what 15 minutes does? I gave you a few introductions. Look at the words again and say, oh. Torah believes in individuals. And Torah believes in a group. Torah does not believe that it's either the individual or the group, which is what society does. And I don't blame society, believe me. Believe me, I understand the world, I understand history, I understand imperfection. But Torah says, in a perfect world, everybody is themselves and everybody belongs to the group. That's called v'kabetzenu min hagoyim. Verstehst? We're going to break now. Okay, we're going to break now for 5 minutes. I'll be back at 20 to 12 and we're going to try and read these for Psukim. Does anybody want to say anything?
Yeah, can I say something, Rabbi?
At your own risk?
I might be wrong, but I think it's predominantly the Western world that lives, quote unquote, in chaos. Because, for instance, in Papua New Guinea, 97% of the land is owned by clans, not the government. It's owned by ourselves. So the people own the land. We live in language groups. And then from the language groups, we have over 860 different languages. But then we come out and we operate as a nation. So, and, the stats are saying that 90%, 95% of the country are Christians. To me, it's pretty close to Mashiach.
Okay, Chava.
When you come to New York,
Chava, I want to respond.
Yeah.
If Papua New Guinea had a hundredth of the wealth that America has, what do you think would happen?
I'm not sure.
I'll tell you what'll happen. These clans will be killing each other for the wealth,
right,
for the competition. So Papua New Guinea is close to Mashiach. You know why? Because it hasn't been tested.
Right.
Wealth, power are a test. Now imagine, I really adore the fact that you're proud of where you come from. Imagine a civilization as peaceful as yours, as rich as ours. That's Mashiach.
That's Mashiach. Then.
No, that's Mashiach. Trust me.
Oh, Mashiach, right.
But you understand why that's... You understand what you're missing? You understand the point?
Absolutely.
The point is that people... The way the world works, people in poverty are more principled. They're more traditional. They're more religious.
Right.
Then competition comes along and jealousy comes along. You know what comes out of competition and jealousy? Violence. So the Western world has come up with a solution. We're all one big clan. By being all one big clan, who are we competing against? Ourselves. But what do we lose in becoming one big clan? We lose our identity. So we're giving away the more meaningful parts of ourselves, what makes us distinctive, so we shouldn't kill each other. This is what Esti was saying. That the Western world survives on integration. Why does the Western world insist on integration? Because the alternative to integration is jealousy, which very quickly leads to violence. That's what happens when people get rich. It's very simple. If everybody is eating rice and beans, and everybody is 2 meals away from hunger and starvation, you have much more order in the world. Now, when you run out of rice and beans, there's also violence, for the opposite reason. Because if I don't have food, I'm going to take yours. But if everybody has rice and beans for 2 meals, everyone gets along well. When you add to that environment a lot of wealth, it creates competition. The competition results in really aggression. And then you have to have a United Nations that comes along and says, excuse me, we're all one. And it's true. It works. It's worked since the 40s. It's worked for 70 years. It's an incredible, from a historic point of view, the amount of peace the world has known, in spite of the little fights here and there, has been wonderful. But we lost our soul. We lost our values. Why? Because we couldn't afford to be distinctive. Because the distinctiveness is the source of the jealousy, which leads to violence. So it's one or the other. Mashiach's both.
Right. Got it.
Okay, does anybody else want to say anything? Okay, I'm going to come back in about 5 minutes. Okay, 11:45, Mr. Shem. Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.